This is the Promising Practices for Health Equity podcast, brought to you by the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders Program, a national leadership program of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation.
Welcome to Promising Practices for Health Equity, a podcast by Interdisciplinary Research Leaders, or IRL, a national program funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. I am your host, J. Robin Moon, and this is Season 3, Episode 3, Turning a Lens on IRL. This episode is a very special one. It comes from a unique moment in the life of the IRL program. As we approached our 10th year, we asked ourselves the question, what does it mean to capture the essence of a decade of work? The work we celebrate here isn't just about peer-reviewed journal articles, op-eds, or even change policies, neither big P or small p, although those absolutely matter. But it's really about the human connections, the trust, and the relationships that make the research possible. As we learn through our program that those elements are not nice to have, but the necessary foundation. As we've heard in every episode since Season 1 of our podcast, the human factor is what makes this fellowship and community engaged research anywhere truly transformative. So, in September 2025, we gather for our final annual leadership conference, a market occasion to celebrate, reflect, and graduate our last cohort of fellows. And we asked ourselves, what kind of dissemination products can capture this, the celebration itself, and the feat of human factor? Not only what we share with the world in formal and external formats, but something that can be returned to our fellows, to our community, something that holds the spirit of what we built together. We knew the answer was already in the room. For nearly a decade, our photographer, Caroline Yang, hailing from St. Paul, Minnesota, has been with us, capturing the laughter, the intense conversations, the serious workshopping hours, the quiet moments of connection, the dance floors. Hundreds and hundreds of frames that tell us a story that words alone cannot. And we didn't stop at photos. Every IRL gathering featured a crowdsourced among the fellows and shared Spotify playlists, songs that became the soundtrack of our community. And through our video interview project, or VIP for short, led by our podcast co-host and artist extraordinaire, Mandy LaBreche, we've preserved the voices and visions of our fellows in their own words. Think of these as a yearbook in 3D. So we brought these elements together: Caroline's visual narrative, our community's soundtracks, and Mandy's intimate interviews. And to help us see the bigger picture, we asked Kristin Rosengren of AcademyHealth, a veteran and a 10-year partner who has guided IRL's communication and dissemination work from the very beginning, to moderate a conversation about what these artifacts reveal. And it is true that of all communication modes in human history, movement came first, then music, then language. In this episode, you'll hear Kristin's conversation with Caroline and Mandy as they look back through the lens of a camera and a decade to trace how trust is built, how humans evolve together, and how a program becomes a community. This is a story told in glances, in songs, and in shared moments. We hope this helps you see and feel what 10 years of promising practices and partnership can look like. Let's turn the lens on IRL.
I would say letting go, learning to let go. I never thought of myself as a type A person, but I think being an IRL fellow, that part of me kind of came out, because I was really passionate about the process we were using, and almost a bit too fastidious about it, that it had to proceed in a certain way, in a certain order with certain people. And so just learning to take a step back and sort of let go of my preconceived notions of how the research should play out, or how our collaboration should ensue, or even what the outcomes will be, has been really, really helpful for me. Because I realized that when I have let go, when I've taken a step back, when I have allowed others to shine and do their work, it's been a more fulfilling experience, like, for all of us.
When I started the IRL program, I thought of it as a research project, and I went in with a researcher's mind. I mean, that's what I'm trained to do. But then as I got through the program, I realized that so much of the program was about investing in human capital. It was about investing in the relationships between us and researchers and community members in order to achieve our goal. And I think that's really important, because you can do research as a set of tasks, and research activities as a set of tasks really isn't valuable without relationship. It's just essentially empty. So it was nice to be able to take concentrated time to be able to spend just investing in relationships, building trust, building togetherness, building a common goal, and then bringing that to the table with a set of activities that we could move forward in the name of guaranteed income. So
when I do qualitative interviews and somebody I don't know who has very different life experiences than I do shares about their life, it's humbling. The wisdom that they have is awesome. And for me, IRL creates that space where we all come in and are invited to a space of trust, to share deeply and candidly and introspectively, and to be able to move beyond maybe the places where we're stuck or the barriers that we feel we can't get through, and to dream bigger. So for me, it's been transformative in how I think about research and collaboration and leadership.
I've actually done 2 professional development sessions now for my college and for a bigger university group about collaboration agreements based on the IRL process and templates and all of that. Just really presenting, here are the tools, here's an ideal case. And it's been interesting to see how many people have said, we've never even thought about equitable budgeting. How do we do equitable data dissemination? Like these questions that the gift we were given of 6 months of time at the front to work through those exercises and build that collaboration agreement was invaluable, and something, I just last week was doing a session and someone asked, what do you do when the funder wants you to start work right away? And it's like, I hope you can imagine some way to build in time and money and space to do this work ahead of time, because it will only, it's going to save you time on the back end.
I've been using it in a lot of different ways. I mean, this has been revelatory for me in so many ways. It's given me the structure I needed to, anytime I start working in an interdisciplinary team, whether we're meeting to write a grant or analyze data, get a manuscript out, whatever we're doing, I use these principles, these templates, these practices with my new colleagues. I also teach them when I teach research methods for students, so that these early career students learn how to engage equitably with community partners, with organizational partners. So it's really added to my toolkit and how I do research in all facets and domains.
I've always been very assertive. Surprise. She snorted. But I've always been very assertive.
Pretty sure the mic got that.
And this is the first time where, as a community partner, I have been prioritized. Because in my other partnerships with academic partners or research-oriented partners, I get the shit end of the stick. Like, oh, by the way. And now with this partnership, they've been like, no, whatever Ebony says is where we're going to start, because she's representing the community. And of course, we push back against each other if it doesn't sound like it's going to be the best way. But I have never had my voice amplified as a community partner in the way that all of that work we've done has encouraged us to do. And now I don't expect anything less. When I enter another partnership, I'm like, nope, let me tell you what's going to happen. And if you're not taking care of my patients, my staff, or my organization, then the answer is no, I don't want to play with you. And I may have said that before, but like I'm standing on business now. Like, no, we're not gonna play unless you honor what my community needs. And that's been transforming for me as well.
I think the pace of this program allowed us to take a step back and say, hey, look, this is what we pitched to the funders. What else should we be thinking about? How else should we do this? And so we had all these planning meetings with the practitioners who basically said, yeah, we don't actually want to do the data collection in just these ways. We also want to make collages. We want to do short videos. We want to have you attend these kinds of events so you see what we're doing. And these are the kinds of things that, we could have added some of these things along the way when we figured it out. But I think the fact that we asked them, what do you want to do and how do you want to do it has given us a level of buy-in that we never could have had otherwise. And I was actually just talking with another fellow and we were saying, for me, one realization has been, if you have to really plead with people to come along with you and do these things, then you have to step back and say, well, what is the barrier and what need am I not meeting? Because now we're not pleading with anybody. Like, people are excited about this. We are doing this together. And we're finding this with other work as well. Like, if we're truly in alignment with a broader range of folks, it's just like this momentum that builds, right? We don't have to be convincing folks of anything. And I think that feels really good. It feels very honest. It feels like the work is going to live on well past the grant. So I think that it feels really obvious, like people should be on board with you. But we get so caught up in these research projects where we have these deadlines and these funder needs and all these things, and just seeking that alignment in a really broader way. I think that's going to change the way I do my work going forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest learning is that the professional disciplinary work that I think the average person does is very deeply tied on some level to their own personal journey as a human being. I knew that was true for me. I don't know if I thought it was like I was unique in that regard, but now I'm able to pretty much try to understand and tap into what is it, like, why are you doing this work? What is it about you that makes you interested or effective as a professional? And collaboration really for me now doesn't happen primarily at the disciplinary level. Now it happens primarily at that personal journey sort of narrative level. Wherever you are, what you're doing professionally is tied to who you are as a person. So for me, collaboration is like, how can I find quality, like really high caliber humans to work with, and then try to make the professional and disciplinary sort of fit in, as opposed to, oh, we're in the same special interest group at this association, so now let's try to work on a project, because that just isn't what has resonated for me. So I also credit IRL with a lot of that, because this has just been a place that's cultivated so many amazing opportunities and relationships and scenarios where you can really kind of see and appreciate the layers that are behind like someone's professional work or that sort of thing.
Structural racism and in the realm of public health, how it just permeates across so much. It's not just about health and healthcare, and it's about all the experiences individuals have in their own communities. In fact, a majority of individuals' health is about the communities and places and how their day-to-day lives are absolutely what impact their health. And this fellowship has not only broadened my capacity to see beyond the health and healthcare system, but it's also helped me with a degree of intentionality of how I navigate, walk through, and see the lived experiences of the individuals in the place in which they're living, surviving, and thriving.
I believe that it has given me an opportunity to really understand the way that we all kind of come to this work, understanding that every last one of us are very different, our experiences are different, but we all have this one goal. When I first started, as the community partner, as someone who can be a little bristly and a little scratchy sometimes, I came in feeling like this is too fluffy, no one's really into it, it's fake deep, all of this, but over my time building relationships with folks outside of the the prescribed or scheduled meeting times, I've really learned that folks are really about business, and it just doesn't look the same as it may look in Baltimore, but we're all here and are really trying to make change. And so it has definitely opened my eyes. It has allowed me to become friends and build relationships with folks that I may not have in any other space have connected with. But I definitely believe in all of the work that we all are doing when it comes to the changes that we're looking for.
Oh man, whew. That's such a beautiful question. I think I have learned so much since then. It's always setting agreements and commitments first. I think that our project did not necessarily, while we had an understanding with the school and the parents, I think there was no consensus and then collective around, this is what our agreements are to each other. These are our commitments to each other, and ensuring that there's consensus around those commitments. And we have a way to revisit those, right? And I think with community work, those are the kind of things that matter. It's like, oh, let's go back. Let's go back and look at our commitments to each other. Are we honoring this? You know what I mean? Do we need to change some things? Do we need to, again, alter in a way where we change the path forward?
Well, I think, to speak victoriously, there are people from different perspectives. There are people that are from everywhere that have differences, even if we're on the same team. And our ability to look at the community, even the beloved community as we're seeking to define, individually, and how do we use the relationships we have established, right? And so I've learned from different perspectives. There has been an opportunity to have intellectual exchange that is different, that has allowed me to fine-tune my thinking and broaden my perspective. And so I think I've learned from people is the short way to answer that question.
All right, let's get these ladies up here. Woo! You brought tissues. Mandy brought tissues, y'all. All right. I think that these amazing women need no introduction, but let's give them another round of applause because that was amazing. All right. For some of the folks from the way back years, I'm Kristin Rosengren. I'm with AcademyHealth. AcademyHealth has been a partner with the National Program Office for the entirety of the IRL program. I started as faculty. You might remember me talking to you about how to create a communications plan. And then became our delegate to the National Program Office a couple years ago when the fabulous Bonnie Cluxton retired. So it is a pleasure and honor to be with you here today and to be on stage with Caroline and Mandy. And we're going to talk a little bit about the process, a little bit about how we got that amazing product, and we'll start there. So it was amazing. I love it. How did you get to that with 7 years of photos or 10 years, I guess? But Caroline, you've only been with us for the last
2018.
2018, yeah. So 7-ish years of content that y'all had to go through. Where'd you start?
Well, I think easier for me than Caroline because I shot all those interviews last year at the 2024 Minnesota Leadership Meeting. And I think going into it, my biggest fear is that no one would sign up and that the sign-up sheet would just be empty.
Yeah, because no one in this room likes to talk.
I mean, but on camera and how it's going to be used. I just wasn't sure. I'm kind of a competitive person, if any of you know, even about things that do not need to be competitive. So I was like, if this sheet is not filled, I'm going to be embarrassed. I want it to be filled up, and I don't want to feel like I have to coerce people or bribe people with something from the merch store to do an interview with me, but surprisingly, so many people signed up. I think I had more interest than time slots, which was amazing. And a lot of people really didn't prep. Like, I had this whole menu of questions. I wanted it to be a short interview. I wanted it to be easy breezy. People pick their few questions, and a lot of people were just like, just ask me whatever you want. Like, they didn't even look at the questions. And I mean, the editing has been amazingly smooth. I feel like people barely started and stopped. Like, if I was in that interview, I don't know, I would be starting and stopping. Oh, let me start over. Oh, I'm crying about this. But yeah, it was just so smooth. It was just like one continuous take for everyone. And that's made the editing really smooth, although it's taken me a long time to give it the attention. I would say there were short interviews. I think I interviewed like 31 or 32 individuals and then 4 or 5 teams. So I would say there's about like 3 hours of footage, and there's just gem after gem after gem. Everyone was so just polished, and yeah, it's been really amazing. I love going back and looking at the tapes, and I get all emotional. I feel like these past few months have just been like waterworks for me. We had our final team retreat back in July, and I was kind of going through the archives, going through a lot of Caroline's photos, going through VIP interviews, and I was like bawling, crying the whole retreat, just like 10 years of this thing. And yeah, it's been an amazing ride, and yeah, it's like, I'm so glad I got to do the VIP project. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Awesome. Woo. All right, so Caroline, 7 years worth of photos. What are we talking about here? How did you even begin to select?
Well, I think for each meeting, I probably photographed 2,000 to 3,000 frames. But before I deliver to Mandy, I've already edited and kind of culled down to the best ones. So I didn't have to pour through everything. But I think we counted up, I've documented 12 meetings. And never have I been with a client this long. And I'm glad I didn't throw anything away. Definitely had them in the archives. And, it's probably, I went through at least 10,000 photos. But again, I had the favorites selected already. And then it was just kind of the difficult task. There's so many good moments. And it was the difficult task of picking out which were the best. And over 7 years, we really just had to narrow it down.
Yeah. Was there anything that you couldn't get in? Because we gave them a time limit, y'all. They had to get the video down to like 15 minutes. Was there anything that you really wish you could have put in, or any like fun archival finds? Like what didn't make the cut? Anything that you wish had stood out?
I think for me, it was mainly just probably redundant photos.
Yeah.
Or repeats. Of just people laughing, and like there are some people where I have folders of just images of them, Michelle being one
Chapman.
of them. Michelle. So many good moments from Michelle, and just having to be more inclusive of who was in the collection, so we could only pick a couple of Michelle. But really, no, I think we put in a lot of our favorite moments.
Yeah. What about you, Mandy?
Yeah, for me, I just had to narrow down. Like in each VIP interview, people answered maybe 3 to 4 questions. A few questions were common throughout. And but I also had to kind of stay on point with the theme of the meeting. And today, or this morning, I think is covering the past. So there was like a visioning question that I asked everyone that wasn't really appropriate for this session, but it will be coming out in other forms. So it was just kind of narrowing it down, and then what I kind of landed on was people's responses to their biggest learning in the IRL program.
Yeah. All right. So those were the softballs, just to get them warmed up. Now we're going to go deeper. Make sure your tissues are handy. So I'm going to start with you, Mandy. I know. You and I have been with the program since the beginning. Very different roles. But as you look at the video and the work that you've done here, what was the story telling you about who we are and what changes, like as you were looking back, what changes did you see sort of reflected in our work together?
I was up late last night in my bed making a little note, just kind of reflecting on the different prompts that Kristin came up with.
I did give them warning.
And yeah, she gave us warning. And I think the biggest story that IRL has told over the 10 years is really about the power of relationships and connection. I think I wasn't one of the conceivers of IRL, so I probably shouldn't speak for them, but I can't imagine that when they were proposing to be the IRL National Program Center, that there was a big focus on relationship building and connecting with others. I think the focus was a lot on the research skill sets, the leadership skill sets, and specifically to the research, like figuring out your methodology, thinking about dissemination early, figuring out your community engagement approaches, all those kinds of things, which are very important. But I think the one thing that maybe we weren't anticipating would be at the foundation of IRL is really the relationships and the connections that are made among a special group like this. And so I think that's what the story tells. I mean, I feel like in all of the interviews and through the pictures that Caroline has taken, you can just see the level of connection and the relationships that have been built through this program. And even just yesterday, I didn't even really go into the social hour space, but just like chatting with people, just like briefly, you just hear about how they've been connected through IRL. Some people maybe met each other before IRL, but a lot of people didn't. And like Sarah Benatar was telling me, her and Anu lived 2 miles away from each other. They didn't know each other before IRL, but now they collaborate on tons of projects. Even just seeing like the cohort 2 members, it was Robert, it was Phil and Michelle and Matt, just when Regina walked through the hallway down here, just like the warm embrace, it truly felt like what Zinzi was talking about earlier, like a family reunion. And like all these connections came about through IRL, and that was just like a little sampling. I was just having mini conversations with people, and Irene and Kia met at the IAPHS conference a week ago, didn't know that they were both IRL fellows, and now a week later they're here at the IRL finale meeting. So I just think there's just so many amazing connections and relationships, and that really has, I think, been at the core and really drived what people's experience was in the program.
Yeah.
I think even if I'm sure if IRL program was Google reviewed, there would be a range of stars that we would get. A lot of people, I think, are really obsessed. IRL can do no wrong. This has been life-changing. Maybe a handful of people have their reservations, and that's fair. But I think no matter what your experience was, as long as you put a little bit into it, showed up for something, showed up on some webinars, came to some in-person meetings, I just think the return that people got was a lot. Even if maybe they had some shortcomings with their research or with their teammates, I think there are so many connections and relationships that came about because of this program that made the program what it is. It's almost like, I don't want to say the research and the work doesn't matter, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's about coming together and kind of fighting for the same cause, which I think is so IRL. And so, yeah, I just think it really goes back to the connections and the relationships that were built here.
Yeah, that 100% comes through in your video. I mean, the transformative power of the relationships and how that changed the way people do their work was certainly really obvious to me. I want to go a little sort of more focused and talk about maybe the transformative power of this relationship. I mean, Caroline, you mentioned that you've never had a client this long. Can you guys talk a little bit about that relationship and how that reflects maybe the principles of IRL and what has made this relationship work so well for so long? And maybe Caroline, I'll let you start that one.
Yeah, well, from the very first meeting that I photographed, I felt something was different. I work with a variety of publications, media outlets, and cover different events. And this didn't have the typical corporate feel. And I definitely, from the very first meeting, I wasn't treated like the hired help. And I just remember there was a vibrancy, there was a real family feel to it. But even after the first meeting, and then I think you guys hired me the next year, I can't remember when we ran into each other at Baker's Wife. But anyway, so I had worked with you guys once, and then, you know, a few months later, I ran into Mandy at Baker's Wife, and she said something like, "It's our goal to be friends with you." And I was like...
Did I just say that?
Oh, that's a total
so
Mandy
funny.
moment.
Well, it was so heartwarming to me because it was so unexpected. Again, most organizations I just pop in and out, maybe on a yearly basis, or at most maybe 2 years in a row. And so that was my first real embrace. And then I remember, Baker's Wife. And then after that, then I think there was COVID hit, and at the first meeting in San Diego, I flew in and I went into the opening gathering, and I got off the elevator, and Zinzi gave me the biggest bear hug. And again, that was a shock because I'm used to being treated as the hired help, just the fly on the wall. And I've just been really embraced by this organization and by all the attendees and the ops team in such a way that I think it does affect the photography and how I see you guys. When I feel an emotional connection and when I feel affection especially, that definitely works into what I bring to the imagery. Also, I think having worked with you guys for so long, and especially with the ops team, getting to know people, I can start to anticipate when there's going to be an explosion of joy or emotion, and I can kind of plant myself and get ready for the shot, make sure there's a good background on it. But I think that's a lot of it. The beauty of this is that it was my task to document what was here. It's not my vision that I'm trying to make happen in front of the lens. I was just a fly on the wall observing the natural interactions that were happening here. And what I captured was really happening. So that's really on you guys and what you've cultivated and the relationships that you guys have built.
I can't believe I blurted that out in public, and I can. And I remember after the first meeting you photographed, Ifra and I were just back at the office, and we both just kind of looked at each other and we were like, Caroline was really cool. She lives in the Twin Cities, and we're like, let's figure out what we need to do to become friends with her. And now it happened, and I'm just forever grateful.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
So, I mean, and I think that's true. When Academy Health's annual research meeting was here in Minneapolis last year, and one of the members of the communications team was like, "Oh, we got to find a photographer," and I was like, "Nope, I know exactly who we're working with."
Thank you.
So we got to bring her to that as well. I mean, you spoke to this a little bit, but Caroline, your photos have such warmth, such heart, all of them. And you talked a little bit about how you read the room, but is that something that you're working for as an artist? Is that something that you're trying to capture? How does that shape your vision, I guess, as an artist?
Yeah.
Because there is a real artistry there.
I think, and this is something I tell my kids all the time, you really have to think about how you want to contribute to this world. Now I'm getting emotional. And so...
You're good. My moment's coming too. Okay, you're good.
I had a really kind of a backwards way of getting into photography, and until I found it, I just didn't feel like I belonged. No. So photography is my contribution, and I want to see the best in people.
Yeah.
And that's my goal, and I get something out of witnessing these interactions as well.
and witnessing genuine connection. Gosh, especially in this climate that we're living through. That first meeting, I remember feeling a sense of hope, because the loudest voices that we're hearing right now are not the voices I want to teach my kids. And so when I come to these gatherings, it's like a reunion of hope. And it's a good reminder that there are people working on the important things.
Yeah, we're just going to sit with that one for a moment. The pictures of joy, this work is so hard. And as I was looking at the package before we came, the pictures of joy, like the release of it, the way people feel safe in their joy comes through in those photos. And I think that captures the heart of IRL so deeply, and I'm just so grateful for those moments. So I'm gonna shift us a little bit, because we were supposed to talk about like the past, but we are gonna move into a future. So the prompt is, how do you think that this piece that you've created reflects your vision for the future? And I think you've started us down that conversation, Caroline. But what is the message, as you're putting together the video and the photos, what is the message you hope to send to the world about what IRL has been and what it can be going forward? What's its contribution to the future?
I'll try to start, even though this question shouldn't be a surprise because I did see the prompts.
I literally emailed them to
I don't know if this story will resonate, but in the early days of IRL, I don't know why, but I was kind of vocal and kind of in this mentality that I was not going to be an IRL for all 10 years. I was like, I'm going to be here. I love it. I love my job. I love this program, but I'm only going to be here for like 5 years max, then I'm going to move on to something else. I don't know why. I would talk about it very openly, which is probably pretty stupid. And I do remember one time I was talking about it, and Ifra was like, why are you only thinking about it as 5 years? There's nothing wrong with she was like, I actually think it's a great thing for someone like you to just stick with the program for all 10 years. How amazing is that? She was maybe speaking a little selfishly because she thinks I'm a good boss. But I mean, I'm so glad that she just gave me a different perspective on it. And I'm so glad that I stuck with it through the good times and the bad times. I think about if I would have stuck to that 5-year mentality, just all that I would have missed out on. I would have missed out on cohort 6 and 7. That would have been devastating. Huge loss, huge missed opportunity. I would have missed out, I'm not good at the math here, I would have missed out on graduation celebrations, which are my favorite IRL events. All of you should know that if you watch my hype video, but I probably got 13 views. But I would have missed out on the graduation celebrations for cohorts 4, 5, 6, 7, for sure. Maybe I would have missed out on 3. And then I just think about there's something with sticking with something, even when it's very challenging, even if morale is low, and just all the benefits that I reaped from sticking with. I think about recently, I've just been reflecting a lot about IRL and my 10-year journey. And this is just one example of something huge that I would have missed out on. But as you know, there's an IRL podcast called Promising Practices for Health Equity, and the QR code does work. It was reinstated. But anyways, so last spring, we decided that we were going to do an IRL podcast. Krystal and Robin and Cody kind of wrote me in to being part of the podcast advisory team, and I was very reluctant at first. and almost kind of didn't want to do it, but sometimes with Robin, you don't have a choice. It's not an invite. Well, it's an invite, but the only option is to say yes.
You were voluntold.
I was, I thought about ways to be like, I don't want to do this. And I thought about all the different ways I could try to communicate that to Robin and Krystal and Cody. But I didn't want to put up a fight with Robin. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And last spring, I think it was just last spring, we started planning, we started meeting weekly, and now we have a podcast and we're in season 2. And I had worked with those 3, obviously, on various things in IRL, and we were cool, but I maybe didn't feel super connected to them. And now, I don't know, what is it, 5 months later, our group chat is probably 10 million messages deep, and it's maybe 15-20% about the podcast, and Robin reminding us on stuff that we said we would do for the podcast. And then it's just 80% just talking as if we're friends of 20 years. Is that right for Cody? No, we wouldn't be friends with him when he's 5. But you get what I mean. It's we're lifelong friends. It's we're cousins. It's we're siblings. And the chat is just a lot about just everyday things, asking for advice, just talking about personal struggles. And through that group, I mean, it's just such a group of love and care. And I always think about with any job, you kind of need your one person. Even if the job sucks, even if your boss is awful, even if the work is boring, et cetera, you always need your one person to get through and to have fun with it and to make fun of all the ridiculous things. But I'm through IRL, I mean, I feel I have 25 of my people who I can show up every day as myself. It's mostly embrace. Sometimes I take things too far. I'm impulsive. I'll make an inappropriate comment, but also I'm just so connected with these people. People can, in a very loving and caring way, call me out when I make a stupid, inappropriate comment, like I have done recently. And Megan and Winnie so lovingly called me out, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was ridiculous to say. I can't believe I would say that. It's just such an environment where you just feel I'm foaming at the mouth. Where I just feel you just you found your people. You can I don't know, for me, you found your people if you can show up at your job that you're paid to do and be exactly who you are. Not censor, and that's been so special for me. Oh gosh.
And I think it's important that it's not just us, right? I think that's the experience of IRL for so many people, right? That the community and the connection and the transformative relationships, right? This is a place, and I think that's what you capture in your photographs, Caroline. This is a place where you come whole, right? And people do, I think, let down some guard. And I think that's what comes through in the photos and in the videos. And I guess the question for all of us is, how do we take that out into the world? How do we take IRL and create community? How do we create transformation with what we've learned here so that we can create those spaces in our own communities and in our own states and maybe one day again in this country? I think, when we think about the beauty of the future. That's my 2 minutes of lecturing. Caroline, any parting thoughts for you on the vision for the future? How will you take what you've learned at IRL into the rest of your career and in the rest of your world?
Well, again, I think it's about what you want to put into the world. And this has been such an unexpected gift for me in being included in a family. The last 3 or 4 years, I've taken for granted that it's twice a year I get to come to this reunion, and it's really going to be sad not to have that. But I became addicted to that sense of family and connection. And while I know it's rare in my line of work to find that with whether it be organizations or companies that I'm going to be working with, I think it's something I'm going to be seeking out. And I think once you experience it, it's that much easier for you to also contribute and create it. And hopefully we'll all walk away with a sense of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. A book called Reunion of Hope.
I'm
saying it out loud. I'm saying it out loud.
Let's get the ideas going.
And you can share those in the break, because I have used 10 minutes of our already short break. So we're going to wrap this up and welcome our community people back. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. Our community organizers have stuff for you. But thank you.
Thank you for listening and imagining with us. If this episode resonated with you, I have 2 things to ask of you. First, share this episode on social media with friends, family, or anyone who you think will enjoy the podcast. If you feel like going above and beyond, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or give us 5 stars on Spotify. This helps us reach other listeners who are working towards health equity. Learn more about the fellows and the projects behind these stories by visiting our website, irleaders.org. We also encourage you to watch the full Story Jam video series on our YouTube channel. The link will be in the show notes. A special thank you to Chris Whitman for bringing our collective vision to life. Watching Chris work in real time was a remarkable experience. She listened so intently, capturing the essence of each story and synthesizing the diverse narratives into a single cohesive visual. She made the intangible tangible, and in doing so created an anchor point for our continued work, a reminder of what is possible. To see the visual representation of our stories created by Chris Whitman of Whitman Studios, check out our show notes. Thanks again for being with us on this journey, where every step we take together brings us closer to a healthier, more just world. Until next time, take care.
Promising Practices for Health Equity is produced by the Interdisciplinary Research Leaders Program, a national leadership program of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. A special thanks to our guests, our production team at Studio Americana, and to you, our listeners, for being a part of this important conversation.